Welcome into Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sparrow, and we got a bunch of Steelers news and rumors to cover on today's edition of Steelers News and Rumors here presented by Chat Sports. First up, the latest Steelers wide receiver rumors, and yes, your eyes do not deceive you. That is a picture of Brandon Aiyuk. I know, we're going to talk about this situation here at the top of today's show, but also some other wide receiver targets for the Steelers to consider. Then there's a report that the Steelers are eyeing a big-name reunion here in Pittsburgh. I'll let you guys know the former Steeler the Steelers are eyeing in free agency, and then we'll finish up today's show with official word of what the NFL cap number is going to be this year and what the Steelers cap situation looks like now that we know what the cap figure is going to be for this season. Before we get into the content today, if you guys would be so kind and you want to support the channel, you support our show, you watch our show every single day, and you like our content, make sure you click that thumbs up icon every time you click into one of our videos, guys. It really does help us out. It's a free and easy way to get the YouTube algorithm, to get this video out to as many Steelers fans as possible, and to make these videos as successful as they can possibly be. So if you appreciate the content we put out every single day, we would greatly appreciate you guys clicking that thumbs up icon if you're feeling generous to kick off today's show. And I know what you guys are thinking, not this again, and it seems like, towards the start of the season, we talked about this guy every single day. Well, he's back in the trade rumors for the Pittsburgh Steelers here, as 49ers GM John Lynch said today at the NFL Combine that they will, quote-unquote, listen to trade calls on wide receiver Brandon Aiyuk this offseason, all right? So you take a look at Brandon Aiyuk. He's 27 years old, so he still is very young, all right, 200 pounds. He's got decent size. He's a good run blocker for that size. He signed a massive new extension last year. We all remember that. We all remember the pain of putting all of our eggs in the Brandon Aiyuk basket last year and then for him to just go back to San Francisco. But then he suffered a pretty major knee injury that ended his 2024 season. There's some whispers that he's not even going to be ready to go for the start of 2025. So if the Steelers do end up making this move, guys, and they trade for Aiyuk this offseason, he's actually really affordable the next 2 years because the only thing the Steelers take on is his base salary and his roster bonus over the next 2 seasons. All right, and right now that's just $1.92 million in 25 and $1.96 in 2026. But then in 2027 and 2028, that number begins to go up. But of course, the cap is going to go up every single year. So by the time he gets to this range, $28 and $29 million respectively, is actually not going to be that much for a top flight wide receiver, assuming Aiyuk is still a number one receiver. But, last year we talked a lot about this guy, man, and I'm so tired of it. So I'm just going to not buy into this until there's actually something substantive that the Steelers are interested and that they're making offers for him and all this different stuff. I just don't think this is going to be a realistic possibility because I think the 49ers would have to take on way too much dead cap in order to move him. And it's already known that they're moving Deebo Samuel this offseason. So I just don't know if they're going to be letting go of their top 2 receiving weapons, heading into last year this offseason. I just don't really see that as a legit possibility for San Francisco. And I think at the end of the day, Aiyuk is going to remain a San Francisco 49er, and I don't really buy those rumors. So let's talk about some other receivers that the Steelers could realistically get this offseason. Let's talk about Courtland Sutton here, where NFL insider Benjamin Allbright says that he could see the Pittsburgh Steelers trade for Sutton this offseason. Last year, Allbright was the one that said the Broncos were not trading Sutton to the Steelers before the 2024 season. Now he has changed his tune heading into this offseason. Take a look what Allbright had to say. I think Pittsburgh's looking to add a receiver, not subtract one. I would not be surprised if the Broncos jettison Courtland Sutton to see Sutton and Pickens pair up on the outside there in Pittsburgh. So you take a look at Sutton's profile, 29 years old. He's got a big frame, 6'4", 216 pounds, great 50-50 ball winner down the sideline, relatively good route runner for that size as well. He is heading into the final year of his contract there in Denver, and I'm not sure if Denver's going to want to pay him the money that he wants. You take a look at his production over the last several seasons, got to 1,000 yards last year with Bo Nix, so maybe the Broncos don't decide to let him go, and maybe they do decide to give him that contract extension because he was Bo Nix's favorite target last year. Over 13 yards per reception, had 8 touchdowns on 81 receptions as well. So really big-time year for Courtland Sutton as the number one receiver there in Denver. But the Pittsburgh Steelers, I do think, like Allbright says, could be a team that would be interested in trading for him because according to a report from Jarrett Bailey today, Pittsburgh is trying to trade for a former Russ wide receiver to pair with Russell Wilson, as apparently, according to this report, the plan is to bring back Russell Wilson as the starting quarterback and then bring in a wide receiver that he's worked with previously to be able to work with him in the Steelers offense heading into 2025. So for Courtland Sutton, I think that the price tag honestly wouldn't be maybe as expensive as you might think. I think that, for somebody that's approaching 30 years old, I think that you could probably get him for somewhere around a 4th-round pick, at the very most a 3rd-round pick. But I think a 4th-round pick is more than fair for a guy of the caliber of Sutton's skill set. So I think that this would be something that would be fair for both sides. I think the bigger issue is whether or not Pittsburgh would be willing to provide Sutton with the money that he wants on his new contract. And, right now, Spotrac and their market value projection has Sutton's value at 3 years, $22 million, or about $23 million per season. And, Spotrac isn't gospel, guys. They use these algorithms, and a lot of times they're way off with these projections. It's very possible that Courtland Sutton is looking at $25+ million per season on his next deal. I'll say this, though, if the number that he's asking for is around $23 million, I think that that's a steal for a guy of Courtland Sutton's capabilities. And if you do bring back Russell Wilson as this team's starting quarterback next year, I want him to get players that fit with his play style. Courtland Sutton definitely does that. So that's definitely a move that I would consider making if Russ is back with this team in 2025. So let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Would you accept this trade and give Courtland Sutton a new contract to lock him up here in Pittsburgh for the long haul? Make sure you guys type those A's for accept or D for decline down there in the comments section. In just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our sponsor today. And while I'm talking about our sponsor, let me know down there in the comments section what you think about this potential Steelers trade idea. And with that, if you need to keep your ears warm here before things start warming up in Pittsburgh and everywhere else around the planet here, if you want to represent the Pittsburgh Steelers and want to be very stylish while doing so, you can get this hat from our friends at Fanatics on sale right now. And the best part is, guys, you can help us out here at Steelers Talk by making a purchase. What our partnership with Fanatics has right now, where if you guys go to chatsports.com/beanie, I'll put the link to that in the comments and description of today's show. If you click that link and you make a purchase for this hat, then Fanatics is going to send us part of the proceeds to help us buy new equipment, to improve our graphics, all the different stuff that keep the lights on here at Chat Sports. We greatly appreciate your guys' support. So if you want to go get something for yourself and help out the channel here, you can go chatsports.com/beanie and keep your ears warm today. All right, now let's talk about another former teammate of Russell Wilson's, and that's DK Metcalf. And there is some speculation that the Seattle Seahawks could potentially look to deal Metcalf sometime during this offseason. You take a look at what Alex Ballantyne from Bleacher Report had to say about the idea of trading Metcalf. He says the Seahawks are in the red when it comes to cap space right now, and Metcalf could be the odd man out when it comes to getting an extension in Seattle. So right now, the Seahawks are just above $6.5 million over the cap based on the current projections. We're going to talk about where the Steelers stand in the cap situation at the end of today's show. But the Seahawks need to kind of jettison some money, and DK Metcalf is somebody that's heading into the final year of his contract there in Seattle, and he's probably going to want a massive contract extension, guys. He's 27 years old, so he's still got some good youth to him. He's a physical freak at 6'4", 235 pounds, one of the best deep threats in the National Football League, has established chemistry with Russell Wilson because he works with him every offseason. So for all the people that say, oh, Russell Wilson isn't a good teammate, people hate him, DK Metcalf, Courtland Sutton, all the guys that he throws to, George Pickens, all of them speak glowingly about Russell Wilson. So there's that when it comes to Russell Wilson's character. But the thing about DK Metcalf here, guys, is that he will be very expensive, both in terms of getting him via trade and in terms of the new contract that he's probably going to be seeking if you end up trading for him this offseason. So the first part of this is how much will it cost to get him in a trade? I think Seattle will want a first-round pick, but I don't know. I just don't know if anyone's going to offer a first-rounder for Metcalf. I think that this is more than fair here. The Steelers give up their second-round pick this year, number 52 overall, and a fifth-rounder in 2026 in exchange for Metcalf's services. And you take a look at the contract figure and what the Steelers would have to pay him. You know, this is the list of the top 10 highest-paid wide receivers per year in the National Football League. I think DK Metcalf thinks he should be in the $30 million per season category, especially with the NFL cap moving up $20 million this offseason. So I think Metcalf is going to want at least that $30 million per season mark, so he's going to be extremely expensive. And if the plan long-term is to lock up George Pickens to a long-term contract as well, I mean, that's two guys that you're paying over $30 million per season to fill out your wide receiver room. So that's very, very expensive, and I could see why people don't want to spend that kind of money on two different wide receivers here in Pittsburgh. But allow me to introduce another veteran option here that I think would be a really good fit here with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's one of my favorite receivers in all of football, and it's Chris Godwin out of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's a free agent this year. He's a great veteran, 29 years old. So, he's getting up there in age, but he's not ancient. He's got good size, over 200 pounds. He can play in the slot. He can play outside. Very versatile receiver, can run block. He's a great route runner, and he was having a career year last year in Tampa Bay before dislocating his knee, which is a serious injury. So, getting him wouldn't come without risk, but I do think that he would be somebody that's worth the risk. Plus, I think that his injury may drive down his asking price in NFL free agency just because of the risk involved with taking him on in free agency after that kind of major knee dislocation. So right now, Pro Football Focus projects a 3-year contract worth $60 million total, $20 million per season. And with all the receivers making $30 million per season around the league right now, I think for a versatile, tough winner like Chris Godwin, this is a really good price point, especially over a 3-year contract where it's looking like the salary cap's going to go up at least $20 million every single year for the foreseeable future. Having a guy at this price point that is this good of a player as your number 2 receiver, I think would be a real steal for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I think if this is the price point, Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin really need to think about it. So pick a wide receiver for me down there in the comment section. Between these 4 gentlemen, which one would you rather acquire? Now, you also have to think about how much it's going to cost to get these guys. But for me personally, between these 4, I would love Courtland Sutton if Russell Wilson is back, but I would also love Chris Godwin. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. BA for Brandon Aiyuk, CS for Courtland Sutton, DK for DK Metcalf, or CG for Chris Godwin. So earlier in the show, I alluded to a former Steeler that apparently Pittsburgh might be targeting in free agency this year. Andrew Filipponi claims that the Steelers are targeting former Steeler Javon Hargrave, who is set to be a free agent this year as the Niners are getting ready to designate him as a post-June 1st cut. This was the report from Pony. So he says, source, the Steelers have staff members who would love to bring back former Steeler DT Javon Hargrave. He knows the defense, and he's only 32. It would not preclude them from taking D-line in the draft. Hargrave is a big name to watch in free agency. So let's have this discussion here, whether to bring back Javon Hargrave here to the Pittsburgh Steelers. He is 32 years old, just over 300 pounds. He played 5 technique in this defense a while ago, and I thought he did it pretty darn well. And, he's certainly a good player. He's had success with teams like the Philadelphia Eagles and, of course, the San Francisco 49ers. Last year, he did suffer a torn triceps in Week 3, which ended his season. That's a very serious injury. And now the 49ers are releasing Hargrave this offseason to get some cap relief. And, I can't say that this move would necessarily shock me to see him return to the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's like Pony pointed out, he is experienced in this defense. He knows what the team expects from that position in particular. And, if they wanted to bring in somebody that they really trust to start next year on a relatively team-friendly contract, I could certainly see that being something that's a possibility. But personally, I'd rather go in another direction. Hargrave is getting older. He just had a very serious injury, and I don't think he's going to be necessarily cheap. Maybe he's not going to be super expensive, but I don't think he's necessarily going to be, a bargain type of player this offseason either. I think that this is a really good defensive tackle class. And even though I wouldn't cry if they brought back Hargrave, he is a good player, and I'd be excited to see him back in Pittsburgh. I think I would personally rather go in a different direction. Before we finish up today's show here, guys, make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Daily Steelers videos every single day. Most days we have 2 videos up on the channel because there's so much news that's breaking at this time during the offseason. Breaking news coverage every time the Steelers make a big move this offseason. We've got weekly live shows every Monday and every Thursday. Plus, whenever the Steelers make a big move this offseason, we will go live. It's all 100% free, guys. So if you love the black and gold, you want daily news and rumors coverage, click that subscribe button right now and join our family. So before I go here, I do want to talk about the cap number. It is now officially set for the NFL in 2025. It is $278 million. just over that. It's 278.2 for this season. So you might be asking yourself at home, okay, well, that's the number, but what does that mean for the Steelers? What does that mean for how much money they're going to have in free agency to be able to spend on these veteran players? Well, right now, the Steelers' effective cap space, which means the money that's available to them to go out and get veteran players, all right? Because they got other cap expenditures, they got to sign rookies, all this different stuff. The effective cap space is what they have available to spend on veteran players via trade and in free agency. So right now, they have just over $56.5 million to spend on those veterans. But what's fun about the possibilities here for Omar Khan, Mike Tomlin, and the Steelers is that they can create even more cap space. They can cut Larry Ogunjobi. They can cut Cole Holcomb. They can cut Cordero Patterson. They can even cut Cameron Johnston if they want another $1.5 million in cap. They can restructure guys like Alex Highsmith and Pat Freiermuth, where this team can get up to close to $90 million in effective cap space this year if they make the proper moves this offseason, which obviously opens up a ton of opportunities to make this team better heading into the 2025 season. That'll be it for today's show, guys. Thank you so much for all of your support. Make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Until next time, here we go, Steelers.